Hello, bienvenidos a otro capítulo de Mi Mejor Versión Podcast. Yo soy Isa García, soy su host y hoy tenemos una invitada extremadamente especial en el podcast, Gina DeVee. Ella es una de mis escritoras favoritas. Su libro me cambió la vida y puso en palabras tantas cosas y conceptos de una manera tan digerible que en ese momento yo estaba explorando e integrando. Si no se han leído el libro Audacity to be Queen, ¿qué esperan? Porque es un libro sobre negocios y la energía femenina y es algo que a mí siempre me resonó, es algo que siempre me llamó desde un lugar, desde una pregunta, cuando no tenía términos, cuando no tenía nombre de cómo explicar lo que yo estaba tratando de hacer o con lo que yo soñaba. Yo soñaba con hacer negocios de una manera que alimente y expanda la vida de mis sueños. Y yo siempre, especialmente como mujer en Latinoamérica, la idea de negocios que yo tenía era muy diferente a la idea de los negocios que yo quería, soñaba con vivir, experimentar y habitar y crear. Y esta conversación me expandió tanto, espero que les expanda tanto como ustedes. Gina fue muy generosa y ofreció algunos recursos que van a estar para escribir libros, que van a estar en los recursos de este podcast. Así que solo van a tener que hacer clic en el link para poder acceder a ellos, que nos regaló con todo el amor del mundo. Y algo súper importante sobre esta conversación es sobre las mujeres en los negocios y sobre las mujeres creando y habitando vidas, integrando los negocios con sus valores, integrando las ventas con sus valores, integrando su misión y su propósito. Y este libro me ayudó de maneras inexplicables a validar, y como dice ella, el permiso que nos tenemos que dar para crear este tipo de negocios. Y la energía, los negocios desde la energía femenina es un muy puntual y muy único lente a través del cual ver los negocios y hacer los negocios. Y ese es uno de los valores más grandes de la Academia de Empresarias. Y la Academia de Empresarias se trata de empezar empresas digitales. Es todo lo que yo he aprendido creando una empresa millonaria en el mundo digital de manera orgánica, sin ads, sin publicidad y de una manera sostenible que no contradiga o se vaya en contra de la vida de nuestros sueños, sino que más bien sea uno de los pilares de la vida de nuestros sueños. Así que ahorita estoy en Sedona. Si estás viendo esto en video, estás viendo el video. Si no, en mis stories sabes de lo que estoy hablando. Estoy sentada, tal vez escuche el viento. Estoy sentada desde el atardecer. Estoy sentada alrededor de unos cactuses. La compu está grabando el audio. Y llegamos ayer. Entrevisté a Gina en medio camino, porque agendamos esta entrevista hace muchísimo tiempo y la grabé desde un hotel el día que visitamos el Gran Cañón, y sabía que este viaje me iba a cambiar la vida, sabía que iba a ser muy profundo, tiene una intención muy puntual. Empiezo un retiro el lunes, cuando estoy grabando esto obviamente va a hacer sentido. Es un retiro de 4 días que estoy grabando ya quiero compartir lo que obviamente se sienta bien y apropiado compartir, porque yo sé que va a ser un proceso bastante profundo, pero para eso estoy aquí. Y el hecho de que esta entrevista haya caído y haya coincidido, este viaje se planificó muy a último minuto, de maneras mágicas, de maneras muy inexplicables, y el hecho de que se haya juntado con una entrevista es un pinch me moment por 1000. Nunca en mis miles de sueños pensé estar entrevistando y tener en mi podcast a Gina, a alguien como ella. Y creo que solo habla de cumplir nuestros sueños, y habla de soñar más grande, y habla de todos los milagros. Le hice esta pregunta a Gina en el podcast: ¿cuál fue uno de los milagros que recibiste de escribir este libro? Y creo que eso siempre está presente cuando seguimos nuestros sueños y seguimos a nuestro corazón y seguimos nuestra espiritualidad, a Dios, al universo, lo que te resuena a ti. Los milagros que nos esperan del otro lado no nos podemos imaginar. Así que quiero que escuches este capítulo con la intención de wow, todos los milagros que están del otro lado de seguir mis sueños. Sí, ahí, porque, wow, qué emoción y qué ilusión los milagros que te esperan, los milagros que me esperan, los milagros que nos esperan, como habitando este mundo y haciendo y construyendo negocios y empresas con alma, sanando nuestra relación con el dinero. Hablamos muchísimo de eso. Y siempre tener a personas, como Lacey Phillips les llama expansores, tener personas que te modelan lo que es posible y te modelan. Para mí es muy importante siempre estar encontrando expansores que modelan el estilo de vida y el tipo de vida que quiero llevar y la representación de lo que eso significa con los negocios, porque a mí nunca me resonó y no me bastaba con un negocio separado de lo que hacía como de lunes a viernes y lo que hago los fines de semana. Que tenga diferentes valores, que tenga diferentes prioridades. Para mí siempre fue algo de quiero que esté tejido, y no porque estoy trabajando todo el día, sino quiero que la magia, nuestra magia, tu magia es tus fortalezas, las cosas que solo tú puedes hacer, las cosas que solo tú sabes hacer, las cosas que tú solo puedes descargar y canalizar, la expresión de solo lo que tú puedes decir, como tú lo puedes decir, transforma y cambia industrias. Y los negocios son una manera hermosa de cambiar y elevar el mundo a través de mover la economía, a través de generar empleos, a través del servicio que brindamos, a través del servicio bañado en amor. Y eso, estoy tan emocionada, en este viaje estoy planificando y haciendo la planificación estratégica para la primera y única edición de la Academia de Empresarias de este año. Y va a estar muy, muy anclada con toda esta energía, y todo lo que aprendió la última edición de la Academia fue el año pasado, solo hay una al año. Y todo lo que pasó en el último año y todo lo que he aprendido, estoy muy emocionada, estoy como descargándolo todo porque es lo que vamos a vivir en esta edición. Así que si tienes esa vocecita que dice que es hora de empezar esa empresa digital, de fortalecer ese cerebro de negocios, algo que ayer me quedé hablando hasta muy tarde con Marguga, fue sobre el cerebro de negocios. Y el cerebro de negocios se tiene que fortalecer, y es algo que se pone en práctica, y es algo que igual que cuando haces ejercicio, es algo que se nutre. Y el cerebro de negocios es hermoso. Es hermoso. Y si yo pudiese regresar a la Isa hace unos años, le quitaría tantas historias grises sobre lo que significan los negocios, o lo que me enseñaron sobre lo que significan los negocios y las ventas, y ahora poder vivir y experimentar y sentir ese tipo de cosas es algo que no tengo palabras para describirlo. Así que les mando un beso y un abrazo desde Sedona. El podcast se grabó en Flagstaff, en la parada de ayer, y que lo disfruten mucho. Y también, por si acaso, la entrevista está en inglés, pero está en YouTube. Si estás escuchando esto en audio y la quieres escuchar con subtítulos en español, la entrevista va a tener subtítulos en español en YouTube. Así que les voy a dejar también en Spotify y en Apple el link a YouTube. Que disfruten mucho, que se expandan tanto como yo, y que se nutran de todo lo que dijo, de todas sus experiencias, y de una energía tan anclada, certera, mágica, expansiva, de una mujer de negocios como ella. Les mando un besote.
Welcome, Gina. Thank you so much for taking the time for this interview. It's such an honor to have you, and I'm sure everyone listening on the other side is very excited because your book has changed many lives on this side of Latin America. Let's just say that.
I'm so honored. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm just so sorry I don't speak more Spanish. So it's a great honor to be here.
I think I would love to start with telling everyone how this ended up happening. And I was in New York. It was my last day in New York after a couple of months, very profound months there. And I was doing the launch of my program that's all about the relationship to money. And every time I'm launching that program, something very magical happens. So that was the third time. And I was sitting at a restaurant. I was having a martini. The sunset's on, like a beautiful sunset on the side. And I just pick up my phone and I have a DM from you. And I was like, what the fuck? I remember just being like, what? Like looking at my phone twice, like, what? And I would like to shout out to the people, the girls that told you that I was recommending your book, because I've been doing that for a very long time in all my programs, because your book was very significant at the time where I was deciding whether to trust the dream or not, whether to trust all the conditioning that I grew up with as a woman like for business and all of that. And that changed everything. And that's one of the reasons, like, I feel your book just changes the trajectory of how we're thinking as women in business and everything in between. And one of my first question is about love, because I think that I grew up, or I integrated a lot of conditioning around, you have to choose. You have to choose whether to choose. You either have a successful and beautiful relationship and you have a beautiful love life, or you have a successful business. And I've been working through that very deeply in the last 2 years, and finding women that are doing both, I think, is very necessary and needed, and something that I would love to ask you, if somewhere were to say, there's no way to have both, or you have to choose, or men are going to be intimidated by a very successful businesswoman, or business and love, either one like represses the other, maybe. What are your thoughts on that?
I would first ask, are you living in 1850? Like, come on. I know. I mean, I have a great compassion for that topic. I don't have a lot of patience for it. It's been taught, it's been handed down. It's a lie. It's a myth. There's nothing true about it. There's nothing spiritual about it. If you're interested in the contents of my book, I imagine that you have somewhat of a spiritual connection. And whether it's spirit, God, or the universe, there is no spiritual text that says you have to choose. There's nothing in spirituality that is about lack or deprivation. It is all about possibility and abundance and love with a capital L, meaning that there's abundance. And so, I do want to, say a very reverent thank you to the generations of women who have gone before us that have made this very easy and very mainstream, and have broken the glass ceilings in thinking that we had to choose, or it wasn't okay for a woman to have it all. And, my book, if it wasn't titled The Audacity to Be a Queen, it would just be like, here's a bunch of self-permission, take it. So it's, I believe that we are just some of the most fortunate women in the history of the world to be living at this time, because it really is about living your life and taking radical responsibility for what you desire, and then letting it all in, like get great at receiving. So my husband, we've been together, 17, 18 years now. He is the easiest part of my life. He is the biggest love of my life. And I have a thriving, successful career that I love. And I couldn't imagine my life without both.
I love that. I love that so much. How has that capital L love, I think that, and I have gotten to the conclusion that both are gonna feed off each other and make each other bigger. How has that romantic love fed into the love in business, and how has the love in business fed into having a beautiful, fulfilling relationship?
Well, it's a great question. I think one of the things that Glenn loves about me is my passion and my mission for, empowering women and working with women and developing women emotionally and psychologically and spiritually and financially. So it's like, because my career is a mission, it's so much a part of me. So that's part of what he loves about me. He was a chiropractor before he met me. And then when we got together, he became the CEO of my company. So we worked very closely together. Part of what I love about him is how much he supports me and my mission, how much he leads and protects and guides the team and takes care of the company. So for us, our love life and our business life and our lifestyle, it's all very integrated.
Wow. I love that. That's very inspiring. Another topic I would love to ask you about, and I'm traveling right now. I'm doing a road trip to Sedona.
Oh,
cool. It's been so beautiful and like life-changing, and we haven't even gotten there. And I'm with a friend. Her name is Marula. She interviewed me on her podcast, and we were talking about the concept of it's lonely at the top. And that's another thing that I have had to really dive deep into that belief, right? Of like, is it lonely when you start evolving or changing and working on yourself? There might be this time where you feel like, oh my God, things are changing, or the way I'm connecting to people is transforming after so many years that you've been through this and so many years of the book and such a successful business. What would be your take on someone? I used to think that a couple of years ago, like I was scared that I had to choose again, right? Always about choosing between friendships and love. And is it lonely at the top? Is it going to be just you? And what's going to happen?
Again, it's not 1950, I think it's lonely at low levels personally, because when we're playing small and we're functioning at a low level, we're not our real truth. We're not like the total powerhouse that we all are. And the more we remember who we are, the more we give ourselves permission to be our full selves, not just, our small selves. I have more friends than ever these days, and more high-level friends. And even as I continue to grow and set my heights for the next levels, when I got into this work, I never thought about becoming financially successful. That wasn't my initial motivation. I never thought about becoming a millionaire. And it was in my heart to help people. I was always lit up about human potential and transformation. And so then I got into this women entrepreneurial space, and it was like, hit your first 6 figures. And I was like, my parents never even made 6 figures. Like, I was like, can I make 6 figures? And I was like, so I decided to go for it. And I did it. And then once you hit 6 figures, it's like, go for 7 figures. And I was like, what? And so now that I've had a multi-million-dollar company for over a decade, I was on a cruise with my husband for the holidays, and it was my first time taking 15 days offline. Like, I was not online, not on Instagram, not on anything for 15 days. And this new idea dropped in for a business idea. And I was like, could I turn that into $1 billion company? And I started to look at all the women billionaires out there right now, like some of whom I've met, like Jamie Kern-Lima, who wrote a book called Believe It, and she's the founder of It Cosmetics, sold her company to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. Jessica Alba's company is $1 billion company. Sarah Blakely's company is $1 billion company. I don't know them, but I did interview Jamie Kern-Lima on my own podcast, if anyone wants to hear that. And I was like, I just started thinking about, so why not? Why not? And so I think that when we really, I don't know that I'm driven by that, but I think what I'm most excited about is that I'm no longer keeping myself out of that circle, if that's what I want to go for. And then when you just start to do the research on how many women millionaires and multimillionaires and 8-figure and billionaires there actually are, I don't think it sounds lonely at all. I think that's a cocktail party I'd like to show up at, where Jessica Alba and Sarah Blakely and Jamie Kern-Lima are at. So no, I don't think it's lonely. I think it's lonely when we play at low levels and when we're not being our highest self and we're not around other people who are being their highest self.
Wow, I love that. What do you think needs to change in mindset from running, for example, a 5-figure company to a 7-figure brand or company? What do you think is like the one thing that, looking back, had to like switch or elevate or transform?
So how to get from 5 figures to then 6 and then 7?
Yeah, like what would you think is the biggest mindset change shift from like one to another?
Yes. For me, it was when I was at 5 figures, for me, it was about chunking it down actually. So when I was making $2,000 a month, I was in this mentality where I would my bills were $2,000. That's why I'd make $2,000. And then every month I was at 0. It was really frustrating. Plus I was in debt. So I couldn't really get ahead. So the mindset shift I had to make at that juncture was ask for more than enough. Like for me, I was never taught to ask for more. I was taught just to ask for what you need. And so I thought I was being this good Christian girl and this like good citizen or whatever, just ask for what you need. And because my bills were $2,000, that's what I thought I needed. So I didn't have enough wealth consciousness mindset in me to realize that I needed to make more than my bills to pay off debt and then get ahead. So and then there's a line in the Course in Miracles that says, your problem is not that you ask for too much, but for too little. So I would say from 5 figures to 6 figures, ask for more than enough and don't underreach, but don't overreach. And what I mean by that is like when I was making my $24,000 a year, and if you're like, the internet wasn't even out then basically. So, but like now you can like look around and you can see all these people making 6 figures and 7 figures. And I want to do that and all of that. Fine. Yes, you can. And if you're making $2,000 a month, and you've gotten consistent with that, then go for $3,000 or $4,000 a month. And then go to 5, then get to $5,000 a month. Once you're at $5,000 a month, you can probably start to see how you could make $10,000 a month. When you're at $10,000, you could probably see how to make 15 and then to 20, So that's what I mean by don't go even for the 6 figures yet, go for the higher 5 figures and get great at that. Then And I'm not saying it has to take you a year to make that next step. Like I went from 24,000 to 250,000 in 1 year. I went from 250 to 500 my second year. And then I crossed 7 figures in my 3rd year. And I wasn't a workaholic and I wasn't working all the time. I was consistent, but I really chunked it down. Once I got to 6 figures, the difference in the mentality is you need to make decisions when you're at 6 figures the way you would if you were at 7. And the same way that you got to 6 figures is not how you're going to get to 7 figures. So you need to start making mindset shifts in your business model, in your team. The team that got you to 6 figures is likely not going to be the team that gets you to 7 figures. And you need to start thinking, behaving, acting, using your time and spending your money like a 7-figure person would. So 6-figure people can get kind of comfortable and a little lazy because they've arrived, right? Like the holy grail is that 100 or 200,000. And all of a sudden you're living a very good lifestyle. You've got money to travel. You have money to pay a team member. There's money in the bank. You can hire coaching. Like you're doing well, but the danger zone is the comfort zone. And when you stop doing what worked, when you stop investing in your personal growth, when you stop investing in your professional growth, I see so many 6-figure people, they'll mastermind with other people at their level, but they won't pay for the next level mentor. And so, or they'll do all of their stuff and they won't pay for team. And 7-figure people delegate as much as they can, as fast as they can. So if you're going to do all your social media and all your uploading and all your podcast show notes and all your editing and all that, 7-figure people don't do that, but 6-figure people do, and they stay there then. So that would be the advice from 6 to 7. And I haven't hit 8 figures yet, so I can't tell you what that one is.
I can't wait to ask you that question though.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, it's going to happen. On writing a book, I wrote down 3 points. Okay. And it's what was the biggest challenge? What was the biggest breakthrough? And what was the biggest miracle that came of writing a book?
Let me start with the miracle. So I had wanted to write a book for a very long time. And I also realized writing a book wasn't going to make me money initially. So I had to get really clear at the beginning of my career that I was there to transform my money story. I was there to learn how to make it in my business, to make money, to get out of debt, I wasn't interested in vanity projects at the time. So I wasn't doing media. I wasn't going to write a book because I was like interested in cash in the bank. And then I finally became ready, like really ready to write the book. And so I hired like a fancy media company in New York, and they were like pushing me to write a book that really wasn't me. And they wanted the title of the book to be something that I wasn't aligned with. And it was really hard to kind of push back. It was one of those cliche, it wasn't Hollywood, but it was a New York moment where they were like, no, this is what's going to work. And we know more than you, and all of that BS. So I walked away from that. And they were the ones that were going to get me the agent and all that. And I was clear, I didn't want to self-publish. I wanted a book deal from a top 5 publisher. So that was also, I was really clear on my goal with it. So I didn't know anybody that had an agent or any of that. And I did the classic, like I wanted to find an agent. So when you want something, it doesn't work. So if I want an agent, I'm not going to find one. Then I decided one day it became a must. And I was like, this is now between me and God. God knows where my agent is. I'm done fooling around. It's time for me to write a book. Get an agent. And I happened to be in New York at the time. And I had this beautiful apartment I was renting on Central Park South. So overlooking Central Park, and I sit down to meditate. And I'm like, I'm here I need a miracle. I need an agent, and I'm done waiting. So I sit down and I meditate, and I come up out of the meditation, and it's like the veil lifts. And I remembered a friend of mine in Brooklyn who had just gotten a book deal. And this is it was in front of me all along, but I didn't remember it, didn't see it, didn't think about it because I was all wrangled up with this other group. So I text her and I was like, hey, she's in like a different area than me. And so I was like, do you think your agent would be interested in my kind of a book? And she's like, actually, I do. She's so lovely. So she gives me the information. I email her that day. And I can't remember if it was that day or the next day. This amazing top New York literary agent writes me back and says, Gina, your book doesn't call to me, it screams to me. And Wendy Sherman is my agent. And actually, do you have a lot of people listening that want to write books?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to gift you all. I have a very in-depth publishing masterclass. And there's an interview with my agent. There's an interview with my editor. There's like a whole checklist on how I did my book launch. There's like so much good stuff in there. So we'll get you the link to put in the show notes and hook up with my team, and we'll make that a free gift for all of your people.
Thank you. I'm asking that because one of the things I decided for 2022 is I'm going to write a book.
Great. Well, now you have a publishing masterclass. So you'll see Wendy in the publishing class. She's such a stellar agent, and she did everything she said she was going to do. She shopped my book like the second week of January. By the fourth week of January, I had 7 meetings in New York. And then I had 2 offers, and I went with the editor that I felt most aligned with. So that was the miracle. The breakthrough in writing a book was really staying true to me. There was a lot of people that were giving me feedback on what my book should be. And you know, when you're new and you want to be coachable and you want to be open and you don't want to be a know-it-all, it can get really tempting to hand over your power. And so I think that I'm, you know, coming out of codependency and like looking for other people's approval. I think a real breakthrough was for me to stand on my own and say, no, I'm going to do the book that, and I think I can say this to your audience. So I've actually never said this on any other podcast before either. So the title of the book that this other agency was forcing me to do and convincing me that this will be a bestseller book, and because they saw me, and this is how they summed me up: how to do what the fuck you want. Like, because they just see me traveling and doing all that. How to do what the fuck you want. And I was like, I get that there's an element of my style that could look like I've given myself a lot of self-permission, so I do live the way I desire, but that is not the title of my book. And they were comparing it to The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and all these other bestsellers with fuck in the title. And I was just like, it's just, I don't have a problem with an F-bomb, but it's just not me for the cover of my book. And so it was tempting to be like, am I like walking away from a lot of clickbait and what would be flashy and catchy and probably would sell a lot of books. I was so committed to having the book that I feel proud of. Like, I'm excited to, when someone says, what's the name of your book? The audacity to be queen, like, so that was my breakthrough. And then the hardest part was writing it. I thought, I've got a multi-million-dollar company. I write all the time. I've written for years. I host live events around the world. Like, writing a book is not going to be a big deal. And it was the hardest thing I've personally done in my career. So I thought that because I do a lot of writing as an entrepreneur and on social media, and I'm a great speaker, that like, oh, I'm just going to talk into a voice memo and transcribe it. And everyone told me it's not typically how it works. And then my friend Jen Sincero, who wrote You Are Badass, she said, Gina, if anyone could do it, it's you. You're such a great speaker, but usually you got to actually write it. And so writing the proposal, which I talk all about in my publishing masterclass, you'll get all that. It was so hard for me. And then writing the book was also, it was, my friend Catherine Woodward Thomas said, it's agony and ecstasy. And that's what I can say writing the book was. So there you go.
What helped during that process when it was so hard? Like, how?
Taking my own medicine. I remember I was, you're basically well, of course I left it to the last minute also. So on deadline, like I think I wrote the majority of the book in about 3 months. And so I was sitting there in a bathrobe, and it was like another 12-hour day. And I woke up, and I remember looking at the calendar, and I was like, only 47 more days of hell. So I was like, so that's when the deadline was. And I was like, Gina DeVee, like, you write a book about mind training, or you have a chapter about mind training in your book, and I'm thrilled this is happening because, and all these other actions. So I had to take my own medicine. And I was like, okay, how can I program my mind so that this is fun and pleasurable? And I had to start telling myself, like, I'm a great writer. People are going to love what I'm writing. Like, this is going to make such an impact in people's lives. Like, this book is something special. Like I had to like take my own medicine to get through it.
Wow. Did you ever did you ever expect for what happened after the book to happen? Like, did it?
Well, I'm going to give someone some advice. If you wait 20 years to write your first book, don't publish it the first week of a global pandemic. My book came out March 3rd, 2020. Is that what you're talking about?
Everything, like everything that happened after publishing it, did you ever see it coming?
Yes and no. I have not had I had like media planned and international book tours planned and events and all that. And so all that had to get canceled. The only thing I could do was go on podcasts. So I didn't have any podcasts booked. I had to do a quick pivot there. I can't, I haven't been in, Times Square with my book in lights yet and on the Today Show. And like, Oprah hasn't called yet. Neither is Reese with it. So like, I don't know that I've had like that. It's like, oh, I can't believe that the book opened up these doors. I mean, I was very excited. My book was in Target and Walmart, but it was March of 2020. I couldn't really go and see it. So there was,
how did you cope with that? Like launching such an important part of your career and your heart, and for the outer circumstances to be that so out of your hands, so out of your control.
I'm just getting started. Like I'm committed to this book getting into the hands of millions and it being a New York Times bestseller. And, I think that sometimes when you're committed to a dream, it doesn't matter when it happens. Like I remember when I was in so much pain around my money struggle, when I made the decision, I'm going to transform my relationship with money no matter what. Like I'm going to learn how to do what felt impossible to me. And of course I want it sooner versus later, but I don't care when it's going to happen. Like I kind of turned it into this thing, like I'm going to learn French. I'm going to learn how to speak French or Spanish fluently. And I'm just going to do it as long as it takes to do it and get through it. And I think that's how I feel about my book. I don't know if it's still in Target or not. Like I'll get it back in there. And like, I don't have it in any language yet. And now people from my clients, like I've got a client in Hungary, a client in Macedonia, a client in Slovakia. They're like, we want it in our language. So if anyone wants in Spanish speaking language, like, let's get it in Spanish. You're like, I'm here for the long game of it. So I think that, it was humbling. It could have been disappointing, but I applied the work in the book. And I said, I'm thrilled this is happening because. So I didn't plan on having to apply that one quite so soon, but that's one of the trainings I teach in the book. So I'm like, okay, I'm thrilled that my book came out during a pandemic because. And I was like, well, actually, more people are going to be at home and actually have time to read the book. I didn't want to just sell the book. I wanted people to actually read it. Okay, I'm thrilled it's happening because like, okay, I was going to go fly around the US and do a bunch of morning shows. And instead I did get to have a publicist just book me on different shows. And I got to do it all from Zoom. So it was a lot less expensive. And yeah, so there was that. And then I think too, from like a fun and a vanity perspective, I wanted to go do book signings and in a book tour. But there's nothing that's going to compete with the podcast world. Like, and that just wasn't in my consciousness. That like podcasts get thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads, depending on which one you're on. And there were going to be thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people at all my book tour stops, So I think that some good has come from it already. And I also, it's just in my heart, like, fine, if this has to be a long game, Matthew McConaughey wrote 20 years. He wrote down 20 years before he won Best Actor that he would win Best Actor. And so I hope it doesn't take her 20 years to hit to the top of the New York Times bestseller list, but I believe in what's here. And for the people who do get their hands on it seem to feel the same way. And so we're going to be the little crown that could.
I love that. What would you say to someone that has a dream, wants to start an online business, has like this magic or this calling, this little voice saying, go for it. There's something that only you can do, or only you can say the way you can do it or say it. But then goes, the market's saturated.
There's only one you. So no, the market isn't saturated. No one else has your fingerprints. No one else has your past. No one else has overcome what you've overcome. And no one else has the exact dream that you do. And there's work to be done to get to your uniqueness. But look at, if there's a reason why you have that dream. And, you know, I could say, well, the market's saturated. There's more than enough personal development books out there. You know, I mean, I think on one level, it's a bit of an excuse to hide and to not really go for it. If someone wants to have a TV show, well, there's enough TV shows out there. If someone wants a clothing line, well, there's enough clothes out there. You know, it's not a reason to not go for your dream. It's a reason to really dig deep and really own what's unique about you, or why you know, in my Q Club, I have an app. It's for all things Queen. And I was just on a live call with them this morning, and I was like kind of playing around. I was like, so what do we want to do to like up level our experience here? Like it's basically like Gina DeVee Netflix. It's like there's tons of videos and there's like a social network in there, whatever. And I was like, you know, do you guys want like Divine Living journals? Do you want planners, candles, like whatever? Like, and they were like, yes. It's like, I could sit there and say, well, there's enough journals out there, but my people that have read this book, that they want Queen stuff. And so I'm going to give it to them, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it, and I'm going to make a ton of money with it. And I'm not going to tell myself the market's too saturated. Now, when I launched the Q Club, when I've launched any business program, I did have to take a look at, well, what's different and why me, you know, and that became the fun part. And if anyone's struggling with that, I'll give you a tip on it. I remember at the beginning when I started business coaching, there's all these business coaches out there and people way more successful than me, PS. And I noticed that like during the day, during Monday to Friday, I was like all about women's empowerment, spirituality and business building and entrepreneurship. And then all weekend, I was like flipping through travel and leisure magazines. And I was like flipping through cookbooks and hosting dinner parties and shopping and fashion. And then I go back to Monday and it was all the substantive stuff, personal development, women's empowerment, entrepreneurship, and then weekend, same thing. And I thought, what if I take what I do on the weekends and integrate it with the weekdays? And that's when Divine Living was born. That's like at the beginning, you know, y'all are meeting me now, but I was just another wannabe business coach. And I didn't know what was different about me than the other business coaches. And so I started to take my love for lifestyle and my love for luxury. And I turned Divine Living into the luxury brand for personal development. And that suits a certain audience and doesn't suit every audience. Some people are looking for the best deal out there. That's not me. Some people are looking for no bells and whistles. J-Lo's my spirit animal. Like, you know, like I'm going to be as flamboyant as they come, you know, like you're never going to see me in a sneaker. It's only going to be heels. Like, and I'm going to do it unapologetically. And my people are like that too, or they want that on some level. And there's all those business coaches out there with backpacks and gym shoes and, you know, airport hotels, and God bless them too, because there's people that want that.
Love that. How important do you think is healing your relationship and lineage around money? Because I think it's still such a charged topic. And for me, it was one of the most life-changing. I also have that moment. I remember where I had my journal and I was like, there's something more than numbers here. And I either take radical responsibility for everything behind how I'm relating to money, or nothing is going to change. Mm-hmm. Like I remember just being like,
yep,
all of my dreams, like my business, the impact, the purpose, the life's changed, the country's evolved, like the economy's moved, everything is so much depends on what's behind me and my relationship to money. What would you say to someone that doesn't know if it's worth it to even start, or is scared? Because it is, at least for me, it was really scary and it was so emotionally charged and there was so much behind it. What would you say to someone that's really scared or doesn't know if to trust that thing that says there's something more than numbers behind the money?
I would say they should hire you today because you clearly get it. You clearly get it. and you've clearly done the work on it. And to be with a woman mentor who gets the truth that you are not going to live a big life unless you have a healthy relationship with money. And most of us came out as young adults with really wounded relationships. And it can be very shame-based and all the things that you said, very scary, very embarrassing. I was so embarrassed. Like money, it was sort of like, for me, like sex, where I grew up. You're not supposed to talk about it. You're also not supposed to have it. It's this invisible thing. But then if you don't,
and you can't say you like it.
Then you can't say you like it.
Yeah.
You can't say you like it. And then if you don't have it, and if you're not good at it, there's something wrong with you. And I was like, what? What's wrong with this? And Pia, like, yeah, so it's, it's root chakra stuff. So that's where a lot of the fear and shame and survival pieces can come in. And we all deserve to have a healthy relationship with money, and to get it out of this, like, money is the root of all evil. And or just chasing the money too. Like, there's nothing great about too much or too little. It's like we all know with food, if there's not enough food, there's nothing spiritual about that. There's nothing healthy about that. And same thing when there's too much, when it's just binging and gorging, like, that's ugly also. So it's really about having a healthy, abundant, vibrant relationship with money. And you will only get through it faster by working with a mentor who gets you. And you can't really see yourself the way a great mentor who has really healed that area in her life is going to. So I think they should hire you today.
That means a lot. Thank you. What is the meaning of travel for you?
Life.
Amen.
Life giving. I think between September and December, between September and early December, I was home for 3 days. And then I was home for like a week and a half in December. And now I've been here for a week. I'm mostly on the road, and it's my happy place. I actually do enjoy my home too, but I just, especially after these last 2 years, like, I just love and crave travel. Where am I? I'm going to spend most of February in Mexico. I'll be in Austin next week, and yeah, spring and summer and fall in Europe for sure. And we'll see what's in between.
What do you think in mindset has to change, or you changed, for you to be able to see yourself sustain, allow yourself to have a home, and also travel the way you travel for the amount of time you travel a year? Because I think that's very interesting. And for me, it was I went through a divorce like a year and a half ago, and I said goodbye to like everything I owned other than my clothes, basically. And it was like a big decision of, I'm traveling a lot. Should I have a home? And I was like, yes, I want a home, a beautiful home, the home of my dreams with the furniture of my dreams. And I did that. And then the ego was like, you're not being responsible because you're not, and like the mindset that, and I was like, why am I forcing myself to choose between the comfort of coming to a home that feels like a sanctuary, because that's how my apartment feels, and at the same time having the adventure, the breakthroughs, the life that travel gives you? How do you see? And I love reframing the definition of responsible. Like, I feel like that's such an important life-changing question of how you are defining responsible in your life, because that's like so important. It's such an important question. And what is responsible for you now?
Yes. Well, first of all, for women like us, I just consider travel our marketing budget. You know?
I love that.
I mean, if you got to justify it, just call it what it is. I mean, tell me your numbers don't go up when you're on the road.
1,000%.
Right. You know, and for me, I also am very committed to a global brand. And so part of my love for travel is visiting these other places where my clients actually live. And, you know, then when I can say I've been to that part of Ireland, or I've been to, you know, whatever that country is, it's or I want to visit that one. Like the woman from Slovakia this morning was, in Macedonia. I'm like, I want to come. So there's that. The word responsible means you're able to respond. And what you are responding to, my dear, is your lit up version of life, passion, mission, vision, happiness experiences. And I know, so I wrote an article about renting versus buying, and same for you. So I'll just circle around. So I've rented homes, I've bought a home, and I've had the non-home. I was like, well, I'm going to be gone 6 months. Let's just put everything in storage kind of thing. And like, because there's no point in having a home right now. And it didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel good that my things were in storage. It didn't feel good that I didn't have a home to come home to when I did come home. And so it's just been a value choice that my husband and I have made, that we have a beautiful home we actually just moved to a brand new place in Miami that we love when we're here, and we can do our work from anywhere in the world, and we do. And so, and then that's part of like the beautiful part of entrepreneurship also is like, just make the money, like just make the money and take a stand for the end so that you can do both. For me, I see way too many women being responsible with their mortgage so they can leave a home to their kids. And honestly, it's killing them. I have a friend, a single mom, who is so obsessed from her culture to leave a home for herself. Like literally, she's gotten cancer once. She works all the time. She's miserable. She doesn't date. And she is literally slaving away for this mortgage to be the responsible, good mother in her culture to leave this. What, do you think her son wouldn't be happier seeing her travel more and date and be happier and have less burden? Like, do you think like that's really what he wants from her, is when she's gone, that he has a house like that he can buy for himself anyways, you know? So I think that happiness and joy and pleasure are the new currency. At least for me, my value system is completely based around pleasure.
Wow, I love that. And also, like for me, I remember just being like, what if my highest responsibility is to my purpose and my potential and my joy and my pleasure? Like, what if we change the responsibility? Because as I do believe as women, we, especially in Latin America, there's so much around what it means to be a responsible woman at a certain age, all the rules or all the requirements and all the things. And it's like such a life-changing thing to be able, and I love how ever-changing that definition gets to be, and how the definition of what being responsible means is aligning to your values, but then you also have to be updating what your values are, and they get to change and the dreams get to change. And I think that's where it gets also beautiful and life-changing, to have that permission to be updating all of these definitions, and just to be able to like, this season of my life gets to be responsible through this, and then this other season of my life gets to be responsible through this. And then to speak like what you said, that you get to stand on the and not the or, this or that, but this and that. And what does that mean? And how do we visualize and just decide or even accept that it exists before it even happens?
Yes. And there's also a bunch of really naive financial advisors. Like, it's not 1850. There was a time when owning land was a thing, like where it was safe. There was like a thing about it. I remember when my business was really taking off, and there's all this pressure to be responsible and buy a home. So I did. We were living in Santa Barbara. We bought a beautiful oceanfront home. And I was so proud of myself because I was being responsible and I was now a homeowner and blah, blah, blah. Well,
it's so tempting. It's so tempting.
Well, here, this will not tempt you. So we were there, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years. And I didn't want to live in Santa Barbara anymore. It was a lovely time while I was there. It was too quiet for me. I wanted to move back to LA. We sold the house. And I looked at the massive down payment I had to put on that house, the property taxes that I paid, the furniture, the upkeep, the all of that. I can't remember. Maybe we made 100,000, maybe. And I'm like, I literally can do a video launch and make multiple 7 figures in a launch. Like, if I would have taken that massive down payment, like, everyone's like, it's a good investment. No, I'll tell you what's a good investment. Me investing in my business, or even investing in actual real estate that is a real estate investment. And now, since I've learned, Grant Cardone talks about owning, Tony Robbins too, owning your home that you live in is not an asset, so like right now I'm renting and I'm taking money that would be going towards a down payment or a mortgage and actually investing it so that it does make money. But, buying in Miami, I mean, we've actually been looking around and it's like, it's a stupid time to buy. Like, it's not.
Especially in Miami right now.
In terms of an actual real estate investment, I can make more money more quickly in so many other ways. So yeah, if someone just has a genuine desire to own their own home, then great, go for it, manifest that dream, but really investigate your desires. Are you doing it out of history and obligation and what you think is going to look good to other people, or is it really your dream?
And what it's standing for, I think, is also like things I've looked around, and it's just like how crazy how much conditioning, like how many people just go straight into, oh, you should be buying a house. It's like the automatic, like it's like on. Exactly. And it was just like, I remember starting here, like I started seeing it everywhere. And so many people were saying that to me. And I sat down and I was like, why, where is that coming from? Like, why is that the number one thing people say you should do first?
Because it was at hundreds of years ago. It was
and I realized like that's probably what my grandma heard, and that's what probably her it's just something, it's like the tip of the iceberg that just keeps getting passed down around what we should be doing with our money. And I think that's where it also gets woven into, right, the definition of what responsibility is going to mean for you, and if you get to choose. But once you have everything in between, like the information and the numbers, what's actually behind that. What's your favorite place on earth?
Ooh, it would have to, I mean, France and Italy are my top 2, probably in general, but it depends on what. I'm a pretty big New York fan, but in terms of city, in terms of lifestyle, Europe has my heart. In terms of beachy getaway, it's St. Bart's for sure. But I'm a France and Italy person, I would say.
What does France and Italy expand energetically for you? Like, what do I believe that every place on earth activates different parts of us.
Yes.
Fully. What would what did those places activate within you?
Yeah, Europe in general, but France and Italy in particular, they to me are the epitome, the vortex, the epicenter of actual divine living by my definition. Like they have, people think that because I have a successful career, like I'm a workaholic and all that, like I'm actually obsessed with living, not working. It's part of like why I created this Q Club. It's like, you've gotten great at divine working, but what about divine living? And, when I'm in Italy or spending like the fall in Piedmont for white truffle season, it's like you sleep in, you have a cappuccino, you do some work, you go to lunch in the community where you actually know people and they know you, and then you take a nap, and then you do a little work in the afternoon, and then you go and have aperitivo in the piazza. And it's like they take time for connection and relationship and beauty, and it's not fast food and plastic, it's glass and cloth. So I love the art of living that they have down.
I love that. What is the one place on your bucket list that you still haven't been to?
Thailand is one. Japan. I've not been to either of those places. Moscow is of interest also. There's a lot of places. I so love world travel. There's a lot of places I'd like to go.
Wow. Then my last question is, what do you think is the intersection? And we've been talking throughout this road trip. My friend is a writer. We've been having a lot of very deep conversations around the intersection, listening to podcasts and just like on the road for so many hours with these beautiful sunsets, and just talking a lot about the intersection of creativity, purpose, fulfillment, and business. Mm-hmm. And what is your take, or how do you see creativity and business? Because I used to think a couple of years ago I had to choose, and I had to choose between creating things that light my soul on fire and businesses. And I used to think that businesses weren't allowed to have a soul, but also that I had there was a conflict I've always had this business mindset since I have a memory. Like I used to sell candles, then jewelry, then I would just create like business cards when I was like 10. I would like draw my own business cards and like hand them around. And it was always very much how I saw the world. And then when my friend sees the world through this like writing, right? And we see the world in different ways. But then after talking for so many hours, it's like, we see the world in the same way, just in a different color, maybe. Like, it's like we're using different pens. Mm-hmm. But at the end, it just really does come down to, and we were talking about Joe Dispenza, and you know how he talked like the impact of heart coherence. And I said to her, what if it's just all like the underlying behind everything is heart coherence, but every person just reaches the heart coherence in a different way. And I would love to know how you see these two aspects that I see, at least so often, especially in women, that we think we have to choose between one or the other. Mm-hmm. And like if they were two different shapes that couldn't like melt together or like go together. Mm-hmm. How do you see that?
Well, it's part of what I love about the archetype of queen is that she is the masterful blend of the masculine and the feminine. So what you're talking about is creativity is very feminine and business is very masculine. And for it to work as a business, it does have to have both. Because I've had so many women come to me and it's like, I just love cooking. I want to cook and make money from it, but I don't want to work in a restaurant and I don't want to cater and I don't want to do food delivery. And, it's like, well, then that's a blog. Like that's a YouTube channel that's, not going to pay you until you have enough subscribers, or like one woman's like, I love to knit, or I love to, so you have to have a business element to your creativity. And it has to be something that is not just going to be something that people can access for free online. Like, that it's really, and it's something that people would pay for. So if you have a business mind with it, or approach it that way, almost anything can be monetized. I think the other thing, though, that I want to say is that in the entrepreneurial space, I think sometimes we think we have to monetize everything. And it's also really great to have a hobby. Now, you don't want your business to be a hobby, but I went to Le Cordon Bleu, I cook, I don't need to make money off of that today. It's like I paint. It's a hobby. I don't need to make money. I knit. I don't need to make money off. I let them be hobbies. But if I wanted to make money from my knitting, then I would do the work to see who wants to do online knitting classes and who's going to pay for it and how much are they going to pay. And I'm sure there's some woman out there making money from her online knitting classes. So, you have to figure out how it can be actually marketable.
I love that. How do you think the queen archetype can change the world?
Ooh, well, the age of queen is now. And the world will, the Dalai Lama said the world will be changed by the Western woman, or saved by the Western woman. And I believe the opportunity of this generation of women on the planet is to integrate the feminine and the masculine. I think, in ancient times when it was all feminine, and then we've done a pendulum swing of it being all masculine, that there's such glory and beauty in both. And for us to take all of how God has created each of us to be and bring our full selves into the world and model that that's actually what lights us up and what the world is craving, will inspire everyone everywhere to be their full selves.
Wow. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. This has been such an honor and such a pinch me moment to think about, bringing this to Latin America, having a conversation with you, bringing this to many more women who need the medicine of hearing and just putting into words. But I think we all have it in our hearts, right? Like your book, I feel like for me, it spoke to so many things my soul knew, but then my brain hadn't seen, and it hadn't intersected in a way that I could be like, yes, that's what I've been battling with or trying to. And so I really want to thank you for your time and your book and your work. Sure. And tell everyone where to find you.
Yes. And let's set an intention together that we get this in Spanish, because it's let's
I get that question a lot. Can I find the book in Spanish? And it's just should I just I'm about to translate it for you because I just need everyone to read it.
Oh my goodness. So let's set that intention. It'll happen. You can find me at divineliving.com is where all of the world of divine living is. You can find me on Instagram at Gina DeVee. I have the Divine Living podcast. And if you loved this conversation, I would say come jump in my app, and you can get a 2-week free trial if you go to divineliving.com/app. And there's a bunch of goodies in there, all things Queen Conversation in there.
Amazing. And thank you so much for the publishing gift. Yes. I cannot wait to get my hands on that. I will for sure be doing absolutely everything in there, and I will let you know, and we will get everyone on that. We'll figure it out after the podcast, but thank you so much. Good luck.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I hope you have the best year and a lot of travel and I always say a life full of life. And so I hope 2022 is a year full of life and whatever that means for you.
Thank you so much. And let's stay in touch, girlfriend.
Thank you.
Okay. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.